darkest. Talk about it, think about it, discuss it. There's a darkest.
Well, we're diving into some strange galaxies with this week's deep dive. From what I can tell by the excerpts, it seems like some sort of guidebook, something called the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but honestly, I've never seen anything like it. We've got hilarious absurdity, the end of the world like a lot, and wait, talking animals. I'm starting to think we're going to need a bigger spaceship for this one. Good thing expert speaker is along for the ride, though. They always manage to find a pattern in the chaos.
You think these excerpts are chaotic? That's just the tip of the cosmic iceberg. But you're right, there are definitely patterns here. The biggest one, how insignificant humans seem to be. Like we're just a cosmic afterthought.
Okay, I can see that. Like, Earth gets demolished in these excerpts just to make way for a hyperspace bypass. I mean, I thought losing my keys was bad, but that's next level. This Hitchhiker's Guide is less don't drink the water and more don't be surprised if your planet is collateral damage.
It really makes you think about all those seemingly random events in life, doesn't it? What if it's not random at all? What if it's all part of some big cosmic plan that we just can't comprehend? The destruction of Earth, it's like a satire on bureaucracy, and on humanity's ego. We think we're the center of everything, and then boom, eviction notice.
You'd think anyone filed a change of address form with the Galactic Postal Service? I wonder if they do forwarding. Okay, but we have to talk about the Babel fish, because I've never heard of a universal translator quite like this. It's supposed to help everyone understand each other, but actually ends up causing more wars. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Right. You'd think clear communication would lead to peace, but the Babel fish paradox throws a wrench in that whole idea. What it suggests is that sometimes understanding each other is exactly what leads to conflict. All those communication barriers come down, and suddenly we realize we have even more reasons to disagree. Darkly comedic, isn't it?
Talk about unintended consequences. And speaking of which, we should probably talk about Arthur Dent. From what I've gathered, he has a very eventful day in these excerpts, to say the least.
Arthur, oh, he's the epitome of wrong place, wrong time. Our everyman thrust into the most absurd, dangerous situations imaginable. Imagine going from worrying about your tea to worrying about the end of the universe, all before breakfast. Arthur's kind of relatable, though, isn't he? We've all felt that sense of just trying to keep up with the universe's crazy turns.
Especially when the universe throws in things like, I don't know, pan-dimensional beings disguised as mice running experiments on Earth. Is that what I read? I think someone's been watching too many sci-fi movies. Or maybe not enough. I don't know anymore.
See, that's what's so brilliant about this. It makes you question what's real, what's possible. Those what-ifs become possibilities. What if those little creatures we see darting around are actually observing us, experimenting on us? It challenges everything we think we know.
Okay, I'm suddenly feeling a lot less confident about those humane traps I bought. But speaking of mind-blowing concepts, we have to talk about this Infinite Improbability Drive. I'm still trying to wrap my head around self-driving cars, and this thing is making the impossible probable. Come on, universe, give us a break.
The Infinite Improbability Drive, oh, that's classic Hitchhiker's Guide. It's taking logic, probability, and tossing it out the nearest airlock. What it tells us is that impossible might just be a word for haven't figured it out yet. It's a metaphor for the boundless potential of the universe and for how little we actually understand.
It's like the universe is basically saying, hold my bear, and then just goes for it. But in all this chaos, there's a search for some meaning, right? A search for the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything. And these excerpts, they actually give us an answer.
Hey, do tell. What's this ultimate answer?
42.
42. Okay, that's surprisingly straightforward.
Yeah.
But wait, they don't happen to mention what the question is, do they?
Nope. Not a clue. Which is both frustrating and kind of perfect, right? But here's what I find fascinating. We're doing a deep dive inside of a deep dive. We're exploring these excerpts from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is itself a guide to a bigger, even more absurd universe. It's like those Russian nesting dolls, but instead of dolls, it's existential crises. And I have to say, it's making me a little dizzy.
You and me both. But isn't it a brilliant kind of dizzy? This guide, it's reflecting our own desire to understand the universe, to make sense of it all. Except it's doing it with a healthy dose of wit and absurdity, reminding us not to take ourselves too seriously. Speaking of which, can we talk about the actual guide itself for a second?
You mean the device, not the book, but the in-universe thing.
Yeah.
It's like a cosmic Wikipedia, but with better jokes, and definitely more talk about towels.
Precisely. Want restaurant recommendations for a black hole picnic? Need to know the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? The guide's got you covered. It's got everything. And it delivers it all with this dry, witty tone that makes you feel like you're having a conversation with the universe itself. Remember that definition of infinite in one of the excerpts?
Bigger than the biggest thing ever, and then some.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that. So simple, but it perfectly captures the sheer scale of the concept, doesn't it?
It's a good reminder that sometimes the best way to understand something vast is to embrace its vastness. Stop trying to define it and just let it be. If we can't even wrap our heads around infinite, how can we possibly expect to grasp everything else the universe has in store? Maybe it's about accepting the mystery.
Letting go of the need to know everything and just enjoying the ride. Maybe that's a good life lesson in there somewhere. But if you had to write an entry for the guide, what would it be? And what about those mice? Any theories on what they were really up to? We'll tackle those questions and more when we come back for part 2 of our deep dive into The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
You know, it's those mice that really make you think about free will. Like, if our whole planet, our whole existence, was just part of some experiment, does that mean we ever really had a choice in anything? It's a question philosophers have been debating forever, and here comes The Hitchhiker's Guide to throw it in our faces.
With like a cosmic pie in the face, you know?
It's like finding out your favorite improv show was totally scripted the whole time. But speaking of unexpected twists, let's talk about This Planet by Grothea. Because who doesn't love a good old-fashioned treasure hunt? Except this one's across the galaxy, and the treasure's a whole planet. Oh yeah, Macrothea. Not your average planet, though, is it? More like a cosmic construction zone. They build custom planets to order. Can you imagine? A planet made just for you, with everything you ever wanted. What would your must-haves be? I'm thinking like a self-cleaning kitchen, and maybe a galaxy-famous bakery on every corner.
Ooh, yes. And noise-canceling atmosphere to block out Vogon poetry readings. But get this right. They didn't just build any planet. They built Earth. And guess who commissioned it?
Don't tell me it's those mice, of course. Our pan-dimensional architects at it again. So Earth wasn't just an experiment. It was a custom-designed 10 million year research project. That's wild. It's like finding out your goldfish is actually a scholar from another dimension, studying human behavior. I'm never cleaning my fish tank again.
Right. Makes you think twice about complaining about your commute in front of the goldfish, doesn't it? But what were those mice trying to learn by building Earth? And was destroying it all part of the plan? Did they, return Earth because they didn't like the warranty?
The excerpts give us some clues, but honestly, we're left with more questions than answers. Which, now that I think about it, feels very true to the universe we live in, doesn't it? Like, maybe the real point is that there aren't always clear answers. Maybe it's about learning to live with the mystery.
Deep, man. Deep. Okay, but we can't talk about Hitchhiker's Guide without mentioning Zaphod Beeblebrox. I have to ask, 2 heads, 3 arms. What's with all the extra appendages? Is this a normal thing in this universe, or is Zaphod just showing off? Because I'm not sure where you'd even find shirts for that.
Oh, Zaphod, the 2-headed, 3-armed, semi-galactic president who's basically a walking, talking embodiment of chaos. And he steals a spaceship. The Heart of Gold powered by, you guessed it, the Infinite Improbability Drive.
Of course. Why have a boring, normal spaceship when you can have one that's basically a giant middle finger to the laws of physics? And let's not forget Trillian, who just happens to be along for the ride. Except she's not just any space traveler, she's
Tricia McMillan. Remember, the woman Arthur had that thing with back on Earth. It really is a small universe after all. Or at least this part of it is.
Talk about a cosmic coincidence. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's like this thread of connection that runs through everything. These seemingly random events, these chance encounters, they all weave together into a bigger tapestry. Or at least that's what I'm telling myself, to avoid an existential crisis.
I think that's a valid coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zaphod, he's on this quest to find the ruler of the universe, someone who might have the answers to everything.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just needs to borrow a cup of sugar, galactic scale. It's Zaphod, so really it could be either.
Knowing Zaphod, it's probably both at the same time. But you know what really caught my attention? This total perspective vortex. It sounds amazing and terrifying all at the same time. Like, imagine a device that shows you your exact place in the universe, all its vastness, all its wonder, and then there you are, one tiny speck.
I'd need a stiff drink before volunteering for that. But it does make you think, right? In a world obsessed with individual importance, here comes this thing, the total perspective vortex, to remind us that maybe, just maybe, we're not the center of the universe after all.
Humbling, for sure. But these excerpts, they're not all fun and games, are they? There's a lot of talk about doom, about civilizations on the brink.
It's true, Earth gets destroyed, there's this restaurant at the end of the universe. I mean, come on, the name says it all. And then there's this cricket war that's apparently threatening to unravel existence itself. Kind of makes you want to crawl in bed and pull the covers over your head, doesn't it?
Tell me about it. But here's the thing, they keep going, don't they? Making reservations at the restaurant at the end of the universe like it's no big deal. There's something kind of inspiring about that, don't you think? This resilience, this ability to just keep living, keep laughing, even when everything's going to hell in a handbasket, maybe especially then.
It's a good reminder that life finds a way, right? Even in the face of total annihilation, there's still room for humor, for connection, for that cup of tea at the end of the universe. Speaking of which, we have to talk about deep thought, the supercomputer designed to calculate the ultimate answer.
Deep thought. 7.5 million years of calculations, and the answer is
42.
Yeah.
It always comes back to 42. But here's the real kicker. The excerpts, they never tell us what the question is.
It's the ultimate cosmic joke. Or maybe, just maybe, the answer wasn't the point after all. Maybe it's the journey, the pursuit of knowledge, the endless quest for meaning, even when we know the universe probably isn't going to give us any straight answers.
And what a journey it is, especially for Arthur Dent. He starts as this ordinary guy from a perfectly average, about to be demolished planet, and by the end, well, let's just say he learns to embrace the absurdity. And maybe even discovers a few hidden talents along the way.
Oh, talents, you say. Do tell. What kind of talents are we talking about here? Because if it's Vogon poetry, I'm out. We'll unravel the mystery of Arthur's newfound abilities when we return for the thrilling conclusion of our Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy deep dive. Okay, so last time we were talking about Arthur Dent's little trip across the galaxy, and, well, you hinted at some hidden talents he might have picked up along the way. Spill the tea.
Well, imagine this Arthur Dent, the guy who thought a traffic bypass was inconvenient. He learns to fly.
Hold on. Fly. Like actually soar through the air, no spaceship, no strings attached to fly. Is that even possible?
According to these excerpts, totally. Apparently, it's like this spontaneous ability that gets unlocked through a connection with someone else, a woman named Fenchurch, to be exact.
You're kidding. So it's like love is literally giving him wings.
In a way, yeah.
And
It's this weird juxtaposition that Hitchhiker's Guide does so well. It's this big, chaotic, absurd universe, but then you have these moments of really deep personal connection that ground everything.
makes you think about all the different ways we find meaning, right? Even when the universe is throwing black holes and Vogon poetry at us, it's the human, or I guess being, connections that really matter. And speaking of connections, Arthur and Fenchurch's relationship is a wild ride, even for this universe.
Right. They fall for each other in the middle of all this cosmic chaos, then they get separated, find each other again. It's almost like their love story is mirroring the unpredictable nature of the universe itself.
Which, let's face it, is pretty much always on brand for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But there's more to it than romance, isn't there? I mean, Arthur forms these bonds with Ford Prefect, Zaphod Beeblebrox. Even with all the craziness, he finds his people.
And that's what I find so fascinating about these excerpts. That sense of belonging, of finding your place, even when it feels like the universe is trying to shake you off. It makes you wonder what home really means, doesn't it? Is it a planet? A person? Or is it more about finding those souls who just get you, no matter how weird things get?
Deep thoughts for a deep dive. But I think you're onto something. When planets are being demolished for space construction projects, maybe that sense of connection, of belonging, that is home. Okay, but we have to address the elephant in the room, or I guess the Vogon constructor fleet in the galaxy. There's this undercurrent of doom running through these excerpts, isn't there? Like the universe is always on the verge of winking out of existence.
Yeah, you can't ignore that. I mean, Earth gets destroyed. There's talk of this cricket war that sounds terrifying. And then there's an actual restaurant at the end of the universe. That can't be a good sign.
Makes you wonder what the dress code is. But they seem so nonchalant about it all, don't they? Making reservations, going about their business. There's this weird sort of resilience there, this ability to just accept the absurdity of it all and keep going.
That's the power of humor, right? The ability to laugh in the face of the unknown, the terrifying, the utterly absurd. It's like the universe is saying, yeah, things are messed up, but might as well enjoy the ride. And that's what makes The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy so brilliant. It doesn't shy away from the big existential questions, but it tackles them with this wit and absurdity that makes you think and laugh at the same time.
Don't panic and always bring a towel. Solid life advice, if you ask me. Okay, so we've talked about the absurdity, the doom, the deep thoughts. But we can't wrap this up without revisiting deep thought, the supercomputer that calculated the answer to the ultimate question. 7.5 million years of calculations. And
42. It always comes back to 42, doesn't it?
the most famous and least understood number in the galaxy. But the excerpts never actually reveal the question. Talk about a cliffhanger.
Maybe some questions just don't have answers. Or maybe the point wasn't to find the answer at all, but to enjoy the search, to never stop questioning, exploring, pushing the boundaries of what we think we know.
Which, in a roundabout way, is what this deep dive has been all about. Exploring these wild, wacky excerpts, trying to make sense of this absurd universe, and maybe, just maybe, learning a little bit about ourselves along the way. So, to our listeners, next time you're feeling lost in the cosmic shuffle, remember the lessons of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't panic, bring a towel, and never stop asking questions, even if the answer turns out to be 42. Until next time, keep exploring.